Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video we are going to be talking about the new HasLab Marvel Legends Giant Man figure. A lot of you guys want me to do this. A couple said don't, but you know what? Don't watch it if you don't like it. Most people seem to want this video. This one is not going to be as interesting as the previous one, the previous HasLab with the spirit of overpriced garbage. This one is far less contentious. It's $200, a much more reasonable price point in general for any sort of plastic collectible. And it's just a big action figure rather than a toy car, which is automatically going to cut out, you know, a huge portion of people who only want figures. A lot of people don't want vehicles. Some people do, of course. But anyway, this is way less contentious. It's just a big giant man. All right, so I'm going to start off. This is not scripted in any way, hardly planned. I'm going to kind of break it down into like a general idea. We'll talk about the price point, and then we'll talk about the figure. Is it actually any good based on what we've seen? And then by the end, we'll decide whether or not it's something that should happen or that we should be backing or whatever. So for those of you that aren't familiar, it's going to be a 24-inch tall Marvel Legends classic giant man, okay? And so it does have extra articulation compared to a standard Marvel Legends, but by and large, it is just a giant oversized Marvel Legends figure. And it comes in at $200. A lot of people are saying that's a reasonable price point. A lot of people are saying it should be closer to $150. I am torn. I don't think it's grossly overpriced. I don't necessarily think it's overpriced at all. At 2 feet tall, I think $200 is fairly reasonable for a Hasbro Marvel Legends figure. Especially if you are one of the people who justifies the regular price point for regular Marvel Legends, this is easily a fair price point. If you're not one of those people, if you are more discerning and think that regular Marvel Legends are overpriced, let's see if I can speak English, then you might be one of those who think that this is overpriced. But I'm going to do a comparison against, let's say, the NECA quarter scale Deadpool, 18 inches, and fairly well articulated. Lots of accessories, lots of paint, lots of sculpt work. Like, there's nothing missing on this figure other than some of the points of articulation that the giant man has. That thing was MSRP of $130 for 18 inches. Okay, if Hasbro released the same size at 18 inches, I would say they should be far less expensive than NECA because they don't have the paintwork, they don't have the accessories, they don't have the sculpted detail. Okay, so if it was the same size, but this one is bigger, okay? It's significantly bigger. That's gonna make the price go up. It has to. Even if it doesn't have accessories and paint and all the other stuff, it's gonna go up. Now, for me personally, I think at $200, it's a fair enough price point, but it needs to have something to justify it other than the size. Accessories don't cost Hasbro very much to make. They don't cost anybody very much to make. So adding extra accessories, I think, is definitely a warranted thing for people to want. This figure doesn't have any, as far as I'm aware, other than the tiers, which get unlocked later. I'm personally not a fan of the whole tier system because they're charging you up front for what they think it will eventually unlock, and that's BS. The tiers should be, if we're going to sell this many, we'll have this much extra profit, we can include this as a bonus. Not, we're charging you up front whether we make it or not. And even then, it's just, what, a Skrull head and a zombie head? The zombie thing, as far as I know, is not a widely wanted thing. It's a very specific thing, and it's cool, sure, but that's not going to help most people. And frankly, the Skrull thing isn't probably going to either, unless they're trying to encourage people to want to buy a regular one and a Skrull one for different displays. I just don't see those adding a whole lot of value. If you just want Giant Man, neither of those are worth anything to you because they aren't just the classic Giant Man that you're going to want in your collection. So you're getting extra accessories that are worthless, functionally speaking. So I do think it's a little light in terms of it's going to have almost no paint on it, guaranteed. The sculpted details, there's some texture, but otherwise it's still just a big Marvel Legends blank body. I mean, more or less. Obviously, there are specific details like the gloves and whatever, but there's nothing impressive about it. It's just a big guy in a spandex suit with some stitching. So it's not like there's going to be anything just incredibly impressive about it other than the size, and we're not going to have the paint, and we're not going to have the accessories. So I do think the $200 price point, I can get there, but it's going to feel really light. Just like a $25 Marvel Legends figure with no accessories. It's kind of the same thing. Okay, so I'm not thrilled about that. But I think it's probably justifiable just in the size. I don't think they're really gouging too hard with that price, if at all. Okay, so it's much more fair. Like I said, not very contentious. It's more of a nickel and dime sort of situation, whereas I would be thrilled if they gave us accessories of like Wasp or who knows what, like anything, like a car for him to hold, a crushed up car. I mean, it's Giant Man. You could come up with something easily, and they haven't. All right, so then the last thing I want to talk about for this guy is the figure itself. Does it actually look like it's any good? And to do that, I have done some photoshops like I do for my reviews, how to make it better. The first thing that stood out to me about this guy was the face. That looks like not a heroic face at all. He's got the bags under his eyes, and his eyes are kind of downward sloping, and they're too high and too far apart and too big. So I've adjusted his eyes quite a bit in my Photoshop, and I think it makes him look entirely better, like changes the look of his face completely, and I think in a good way. I also don't like the way they've sculpted the nose area. The mask just kind of sits on top of the nose, so there's this big ridge in the nose, and it's very strange looking, and it makes sense because the mask is a separate piece in a plastic sense, but it actually does make the nose stick out funny, and it's weird looking. I do think his mouth is oversized, but you can kind of live with that if you adjust the eyes, so it's not too bad. But it's like I said before, the eyes you really want to have lined up with the ends of the mouth. Like the pupil should line up with your mouth. 2 vertical lines go from either side of your mouth straight up. It should hit your pupil, somewhere on your pupil. There's a little variance, of course, across humans, but that should happen. And theirs are too far out for the normal mouth, not the one where he's smiling. So I've adjusted that, and I think it looks a whole lot better. That way you guys can let me know what you think. I've also obviously just adjusted the whole body. I don't think he is anywhere near heroic enough. His shoulders are low and small. His chest is in the wrong place. His legs aren't sculpted properly. The head's too big. It just looks wrong all together, just like almost all of the Hasbro Marvel Legends. So I've adjusted that, and I think if they're going to make these premium figures at $200, it shouldn't look like your standard crappy Marvel Legends figure. It should look like a super collectible, a $200 giant action figure that's going to stand out in your collection. It should stand out in every way. And so the sculpt should be much more heroic. And it doesn't have to be, oh, you're going to get the argument, well, Giant Man's not the strongest, most muscular guy ever. Doesn't have to be. He's already got the muscles. They already made him muscular. They're just not in the right places. You just need to adjust it to actually look like a comic book character. This, frankly, doesn't even look like a regular human bodybuilder. The way they do things, it's just not right. Other than the head size, that's true to life. Comic book characters are not true to life. Their heads are smaller, on average. So adjusting that, I think, makes a big difference. And you can see even from the other angle, the head size is it plays such a big role. The head size, the shoulder placement, the whole thing, it just looks so much more heroic when you fix the head. When you move the shoulders up, when you move the shoulders back, you can see on the side view, moving the shoulders up and back and the chest forward, give him a little bit of meat in his thighs, give him a little bit of ass. It actually looks like a superhero who's muscular rather than a straight up and down skeleton with like clay slopped on there because you don't actually know how the anatomy works. You just know the different muscle groups. Now, for me personally, the adjusted thing looks infinitely better. You guys can let me know what you think, but as far as like where the shoulder placement goes and things like that, that's just the way it should be. That's not even a matter of opinion. You might not care, but it is the way it should be. Same thing with the thighs, same thing with the butt, the head size. All of that is like comic book 101, and they just don't do it for the Hasbro Marvel Legends. Then you also have things like his hands are huge, and they had to do that to pack in the articulation, I guess. But in the one photo, I'm not looking at this as I'm doing it, so hopefully I'm overlaying things properly. But in the front photo, I adjusted the size of his hands. They're still pretty damn big on my adjusted one, but they are fly swatter hands on the original. They're humongous hands. They're huge. He could palm his head. It's crazy. So there's just things like that. Hasbro does really strange things. Big hands, big feet, big heads, low tiny shoulders. It throws off the proportioning of the whole thing. So I think they could easily make this look a lot better. Now, of course, they're not going to retool the whole thing. I'm guessing they planned on this working and it's probably already tooled. Who knows if that's the case, but even still, they're not going to change it at this point. They've already shown it. They don't need to. It's gonna get enough people anyway. I'm betting for sure. Like, not even close. For $200, people are just gonna say, okay, it's good enough. $200 is not that much for a 24-inch figure. I mean, like, big picture wise, people aren't gonna care. But these are things that they could do to make it look better, which they haven't done. And these are things I'm gonna have to talk about in my review when I get it eventually, because it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna succeed. So that's a thing. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was the articulation count. They are saying, what is it, 91? Let me check. I have to bring this up here. I think they said 91 points of articulation. Is that what it is? Where is it? 91 total points of articulation. So I think in order to get to that number, they are counting, because each finger joint has a swivel and a hinge, that's counting as 2 points. It has to. So that's like a very, very generous way of doing the POA. Does a swivel in the finger actually add much value? Not really. It's a good number for padding your stats, but okay, so every single knuckle has a swivel. That's not even a real joint on a human. Things like that. Every joint that is a swivel and a hinge, that's going to get double counted. So I think you might be able to get up there, because I counted them the other day and I got to 71, but I wasn't counting the swivels in the fingers. So that's like another 1, 2, 3 times 4, it's 12, 24. Yeah, you could easily get to 91 that way. But okay, it's not 91 like really functional joints. It's 91 technical joints. So it's like, okay, it sounds great. 91 points of articulation. Is it going to be actually that much better to pose than a regular Marvel Legends figure? No. His fingers pose, so that's better, but everything else is going to be a big Marvel Legends figure. It's got the same hips, same knees, same ankles, same upside down ab crunch, same diaphragm joint, butterfly joint that probably doesn't work well, same shoulders, same bicep swivel, same elbow, same wrist, same neck. You know, it's just a big Marvel Legends figure, so I wouldn't go crazy over that 91 POA. That just sounds good on paper. So, let's wrap this up. Sculpt-wise and the look of the figure, I personally think it looks dopey as hell. Could look a whole lot better, but it's still okay. Like, if you're into Marvel Legends, you're gonna love this thing. Like, if you love Marvel Legends, you're gonna love this, because it is just a bigger, upgraded Marvel Legends figure. If you think Marvel Legends are dopey, goofy-looking figures and they're not really worth the money, it's true for this too. That's the thing about this big figure. It's the same thing that you're already doing with Marvel Legends, just at a higher scale, or a bigger scale and a higher price point. It's not going to bring new people into the line. It's not going to make anybody who's into the line upset more than they normally are. That's my takeaway from this. One other thing I wanted to mention, I just remembered, is they keep showing the pose of him stomping. Yet the toe joint is hideous. It's ugly. That's not how you need to do a toe joint. It should be rounded all the way to the bottom of the sole so that when you bend the foot open, it doesn't break the sculpt. But instead they've done the old school joint where it's a radius and then a flat edge. And it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. And the whole thing is like, oh, you can see the bottom of his feet because he's so big. But it's ugly. So if you're going to do that, make it not ugly. It doesn't hurt functionality to make it look good, but they didn't. So that's just another thing. But yeah, okay, so there it is. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like I said, definitely not a particularly contentious thing. Marvel Legends fans are going to eat it up. People that aren't Marvel Legends fans are going to say it's a waste of $200. Everybody else is going to fall somewhere in between. It's just more of the same thing from Hasbro. This is better, I guess, than the car that was grossly overpriced. But it's just a big action figure. It's not an impressive thing to me. It's just big. Okay, do it better and big, then I'll be thrilled. But I'm not. I'm lukewarm about it. I'll be backing it probably because I need to review it. It's gonna succeed. Like there's no way this isn't gonna succeed, and I need to review it, so I need to get one. But anyway, I guess okay. So I'll finish with this. Like I said, this isn't scripted. If you guys are into Marvel Legends and you have the $200 burning a hole in your pocket, go ahead. Like it's gonna be a fun piece. It's going to be a big giant man figure to put in your collection. And realistically, $200, not that much compared to a $30 Marvel Legends figure that you guys are buying 10 of at a time anyway. Not literally 10, but you know what I mean. It's not the same thing as the last HasLab. So if you're into Legends, go ahead and get it. Go ahead and back it. What the heck? But if you're not, I don't think you should hop in on this because, oh, it's finally a cool Giant Man figure, because I don't think it's going to be that cool. I think it's going to look fairly dopey. I mean, for Marvel Legends standards, it's going to be cool, but for everyone else, it's going to look fairly dopey. Okay, that's enough. I don't want to repeat myself anymore. Hopefully I covered all the different subtopics, and that'll do it. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, it's a thumbs down too, and let me know in the comments why you didn't like it. And if you haven't subscribed, you might want to. I have new videos every single day but Wednesday, and thousands already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.